that's kind of cool. I mean, I like that. I mean, the idea is you fear damage not because it puts you in risk of death. You fear damage because your character is, and I used the word haunted, and I think that's the right word. You're haunted
Yeah.
by what has happened to you in some way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's what I want it to be. I want it to be, if you lose a fight, it's not because you got punched and you took 5 hit points
Right,
and now you're
right.
that much
Yeah,
dying. It's
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
you were embarrassed or humiliated or
Or well, set
didn't
back.
get
You
the
didn't get
thing.
your plan, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just talking like a barroom brawl, right?
Right,
Like
right,
there's like your pride was injured, and that's
right.
something I want to come across.
Yeah.
Um,
There's an interesting story in the early Grimjack comic, which of course fits into everything you're talking about with this game in every way. Um, and Grimjack is, an aging, scarred private detective slash merc, alcoholic, bitter, flickering tiny bit of romantic hope left in him here and there kind of character. And he's at one point a young Bravo, stomps him, just absolutely beats the shit out of him in front of in front of the hood, effectively. Um, and he um the rest of the issue is about him getting his reputation back. And at one point at the end, and he ends up murdering, the punk. But at one point at the end, the uh, the one of his friends, says, "Hey, everybody's saying how the whole thing was just, a plot. A whole thing was just a trick on the dude, to get rid of him, that, faked. You just basically took the beating, and then went ahead and implemented your plan." And he goes, and the friend is saying, "Bullshit. I saw you. There's no way." He says he warns him. He says, the next guy is gonna finish it. The next young punk who comes along,
mhm.
who's tougher than you, that one's gonna finish it. So, the friend is basically saying, get out of this, get out of it, stop doing this stuff. You managed to pull it off this time, but it's the next one's going to kill you. So, um, so that's kind of the sense that's kind of interesting. I mean, the result of the fight was humiliation, but the meaning of it, the fact that it didn't kill you, you know, didn't actually make you, and it presented you with a problem that, you were humiliated in this way. But the point is that we've actually changed the arc of the character, like overall. This
Mhm.
was a singular event in the life of the character. Um, so that kind of seems relevant in some way. And it
Yeah,
seems like it would work with what you're talking about, is what I'm saying.
yeah, because it could become part of a flashback. It could become part of an obsession. It
Yeah,
could
exactly.
become
Yeah.
bullshit. Like it could. Obviously, there's an addiction component to the character.
Mm-hmm.
I just had an idea. So I want to say this idea, and then I want to
Oh
go to
God! In
number.
Nightwave's terms, Grimjack, everything's wrong with him.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Pile it on.
what does he have? All of
So,
it.
so related to that, right? What if the weight prevented you from forming prevented you from you started crossing off types of relationships you could form
Well, yeah, because the I think very
until it's
much
only
so.
problems,
I mean,
right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very straightforward. I mean, it's like you get a new girlfriend, but it ain't a bond. It ain't a
Right,
good
right, right.
bond, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
pick
yeah. You have to
everyone
repair
else on
that.
the team is like, oh God, look who he's running with now, right?
And if
Um,
you have, I'm imagining if you have, so you have a checklist of all the relationship types, and there's like whatever, it's like 10, or
right.
it's not exhaustive. Um, you cross one off, you can't form any new ones, and anything that you do have is either
Well,
immediately like weakened or destroyed.
I don't know how far you want to go with it. I mean, keeping the ones you have seems to make sense, especially if you have that business about not being able to be helped. That kind of cripples them,
That's true.
a
That's
lot of it already. And I mean, you got to give the guy a chance to claw his way back, right?
Yeah.
So,
And you just might not be able to strengthen that type of bond either.
right,
So
yeah,
if you
exactly. I mean, you can
your
just say no
family bond,
strengthening of these, no bonds are strengthened, and you can't make new ones of these kinds.
yeah,
And
that's good.
I like that a lot. So,
So okay,
yeah,
so this game has no the GM. The only time they roll, like we talked about last time, is when you're asking the GM questions and
right,
they want to,
yeah,
which is great.
hmm
So I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I am in a fight. I tap some of my stamina to add a little bit of extra power to my punch.
right,
I have one less power stamina to use. Eventually, I'm going to run out, and I'm going to.
right, gas.
I need a cheeseburger. At the original, an old version of this game, I think it was like version 2. I totally went anime on it, and I was like, okay, your body stat is the number of meals you need to eat in a day to recover your. So if you have the
that's
5,
right. The big guy goes. He's always chowing down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I know.
I got rid of that, but I thought that was funny. So okay, so that's one way I get fatigued, right? Is I take it on myself as damage in order to give myself bonus dice. I get into a fight and I get punched. The damage that's done to me by my opponent, which is just flat out, they have a power of 3, they do 3 damage to me. And I either take it or I try to avoid it, but I'm spending some of my dice to do one and not to the other, right? And that gets sapped off my stamina. So if I have 4 stamina left and I've spent 1 to punch him, he hits me for 3. I don't do anything about it. Now I'm exhausted. Can't spend any more stamina. My attributes start to reduce. I'm in tough shape. That part I kind of know, and that part I can figure out. What I'm having trouble figuring out is the other kinds of weight that you can get. Or the weight, I should say.
Maybe we can kind of drop some of the torchbearer and not parse it out into a dozen different types.
Okay.
Maybe non-injurious weight is what it is. And it's a mechanic. You say, okay, when you take when you get this kind of weight, go do this.
Right.
Go cross these off. Go cross a bonds type off. You can't help. I mean, I don't know if you do all of those just every single time. Seems to me as though doing multiple, taking on more and more and more weight needs to have somewhere to go, right? So the first time you cross off a kind of bond you can have. The second time you can't be helped. The third time this, the fourth time that, whatever. But but I think that's kind of the way to go.
Okay, yeah. But it's just the question I have is where does that number come from?
The number of what? The amount of weight?
The amount of weight.
Does that matter? Maybe it's just like, okay, you take weight, next step. How much you got? Do the next step on the weight chart.
So let's I'm trying to think, let's see, a potentially hazardous but non-energy sapping kind of encounter. Let's say you're
well, any kind of emotional appeal to your character, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking with your dying friend, at the hospital bed or whatever.
Right.
You were in prison with him. He's not a member of the team, not a player character, but he's dying in the bed, and you're talking to him, and you fuck up your roll, right?
Right.
And so now you're going to be taking that weight, and so.
But is it only because you rolled? Like, is it
Well, yeah, I don't really know. I mean, what is that roll about? What triggers that kind of roll? Yeah. All that matters. You don't just roll, random. That's like your fucking perception check, right? We're not doing that.
Right. Yeah, none of that.
But so I'm kind of taking it as given that you're going to have a fairly substantial and known, reason. Okay, now is when we roll for this kind of thing, and and maybe it's about, I want him to forgive me, or I want to forgive, even better, I want to forgive him, right? Something like that.
Right.
And so when that kind of thing is on the table, and the player always rolls, right? Because here's the chance for you to walk out of there, having said goodbye properly to your friend, and your friend having done that for you, and you walk out of there, sad but free.